welcome to this channel once again. I'm Aashna Jain. I'm a career coach by profession and I'm a lawyer by qualification. I did my law from NLU Jodhpur and I worked with Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas for a few months and then I shifted into Dua Associates in their dispute resolution team. Before that in SAM, I was working in the banking and finance team. After that, in the pandemic, I became a career coach, and that's how I'm sitting in front of you and discussing a very highly requested video topic, which is how to select an area of law. How do we know this is our particular niche? How do we know that we want to venture into this field of law, right? But before we begin with this topic, can I please request you to kindly subscribe to this channel so that I have the motivation to continuously make such videos for you even in the future. Now when that is done, can you please also share this channel with your friends, juniors, seniors, etc. so that they also might benefit from this channel. Now with all that is done, I'll just quickly deep dive into my story as to how I picked my area of law, and then I will derive the learnings out of it and tell you very succinctly that how you can essentially derive that this is my area of law. And with that, let's get started. So I think I'll take you back to year 2015 and 2016. That's when I was in the third year of my college, and I realized that I wanted to do something around, say, human rights. I started pursuing it, human rights and international law. I started pursuing it. I did everything around it that was possible during that time. At that time, there wasn't a lot of conversation also around these subject matters. So I did not exactly have good guidance in this, right? And which is why I think my interest fizzled out, because the sort of places that I was applying to, the sort of response that I was getting and not getting from different places was a little disheartening, right? And then I spoke to my, one of my college professors, and he said that, Aashna, okay, tell me one thing, that what is your goal in life? Like, what do you want to do after 5 years of college? How do you envision yourself? I told him, sir, that I don't really have like really big goals in life. It's just that I want to be financially independent. Financial freedom is something that I always aimed for. Not that my parents don't want to sponsor anything that I do or anything like that. I mean, they would be more than happy to do anything for me. But it's just that within me, I feel that, financial independence is something that I strive for. So he said, okay. So then he said that, what do you think are your options then? I said, of course, litigation is not my option, because as is known to everybody that litigation would take maybe at least a minimum of 3 to 5 years for me to settle down properly and to start earning properly, right? So I think that's out of the window. Then he said, what are your other options? Of course, there were many other options like, say, corporate laws and competition laws, tax laws, etc. So I said, fine, tax I don't want to do because both my parents are chartered accountants. All I've heard at home ever in life is something around tax and tax laws. So that's something that didn't interest me earlier also, and now also I don't think I would want to pursue it full time. He said, okay. He said, what are the other areas? What do you think are your strengths? I said, fine, my strengths are, like I was a commerce student, I scored really good marks, etc. But I didn't want to pursue chartered accountancy. It's just that I wanted to do something around it maybe, right? So which is why maybe in the first place, I chose law, and maybe in the hindsight, I lost out on why I chose law also. So then he said, okay, are there any areas that are particularly related to the commerce subjects that you studied? And then I thought, yes, capital markets is related. Then I thought, like general corporate is something that's centered around corporations, companies, etc., all of that. So then he said, fine, if these are the two areas of law, why don't you go and now talk to some of your seniors, etc., who are already working in law firms, some of your seniors who've chosen these subjects and they're still in law school, etc., and then you have a word with them, try and see what happens. I said, okay. And I spoke to some of my college seniors who were already placed at very big law firms, some of the seniors who had, gotten jobs and they were still in, like, I think the final year of law school, etc. Some seniors that were 1 year ahead of me. I spoke to a lot of people, and the conclusion that I drew was that I was somewhere, I think I had my inclinations towards corporate laws, because corporate was the highest employer, and I still feel that after litigation, corporate is the highest employer in the country. So that would have given me the safety net that fine, if I want a job, I will eventually get a job. If not in the 4th, 5th year of college, I would have gotten a job after college, right? So that was one thing. Secondly, I had commerce background, so I did not have any sort of a difficulty in reading the balance sheets, knowing how the companies work, what are shares, what are debentures, how how are they treated, etc., all of that, right? So those things were also very clear to me. And thirdly, I had some very minor inclination towards technology laws and IPR laws also, but that was something that was ruled out for me by a lot of seniors when they said that you have no inclination towards science, and science forms the grassroots, or say the base or the foundation for something that that you need for tech law or IP laws as a career option. So then I sort of knew that fine, my I think journey lies towards general corporate. But obviously, I wasn't really satisfied even then. I wanted to see for myself that whether I actually like it or not. And that is when I pursued two things. I started reading up a lot on the corporate laws, and secondly, I pursued some internships. So when I did those internships, I really enjoyed the general corporate side of law. I really liked working on those DD transactions, which most of the people don't like. I liked working on the memos for different organizations and corporations. I liked helping them about any of their queries pertaining to sometimes oppression and mismanagement, sometimes related to how the director and where should the director be instated, etc. Very minute legal search points which were covered under general corporate side of law. And when I started reading up on the law also, I found it a little interesting and a little easier as of what I feel. Not many people would agree on this, but I found it very easy as compared to other things that I was reading, other laws that I was exposed to. So in the process, I started publishing few blog articles here and there on corporate laws, and I did a few internships, and that's when I finally figured that fine, this is my area of law. Now you would ask me that what happened to your interest in human rights. You always liked human rights, and like you are not pursuing it any longer. Does it bother you? Of course it bothers me sometimes, but I mean, I was really happy in the space of corporate laws also. And to keep my interest in human rights alive, I sort of continuously kept publishing and reading up on human rights related issues. Like I've published an article in University of Washington along with Google Incorporation. I've published an article on Oxford Human Rights blog, etc. Right? So that's how I keep my interest in human rights alive, and I can pursue it as and when I have the time. But my full-time inclination before becoming a career coach and before shifting into disputes, that's a story for separate day. My interest was primarily in the corporate laws. Now the learnings that I have for you is, first of all, see that what is your objective. Say your objective is to go for a government job, then accordingly you'll have to pick subjects. If your objective is to say become financially independent right after law school, then you have to pick subjects accordingly. Then you can't pick anything pertaining to say criminal laws or related laws. If you feel that you see yourself as a great litigator in the coming times, then of course you have to pick accordingly the subjects, right? So priorities according to how and what you might want to do is something that you would have to pick and pinpoint, and that is how you choose your subjects in the first go. The second learning that I have for you is speak to as many people as possible, and take their viewpoint as to how they are feeling in the industry right now. What has their experience been like? Are there any mistakes that were made by them, and do they want you to not replicate those mistakes? Do they think that I wish there was somebody who could tell us about these mistakes, etc. Try and speak to different types of people. Somebody who's already working in the field, somebody who's left that field, somebody who's your senior who has probably more knowledge on the subject than you. Try talking to a mentor, like I'm a career coach, talk to me about it, etc. So this is the second learning. Third is try and read up on as many materials as possible, like latest development blogs, etc. on that subject matter which you feel slightly inclined towards. Because once you start reading up on the subject, you will realize that were you only fascinated by it, or you are just getting bored in the process of now going through so much material. Like I've known so many people who were initially interested in environmental laws, and then when they finally started reading it, they felt that it's very complex or it's very regulatory in nature, there are too many notifications, etc. And then they kind of felt bored somewhere. I know that this shouldn't happen, but yes, this did happen with a lot of my friends that I know of and a lot of mentees that I know of, and then they had to shift into something else. So your basic research, and it's not like that everybody gets bored. Like there were some people who got really interested with these complex notifications and regulatory structures and all of these rules and regulations that are there in environment laws. Of course there are a lot of people. It's just that the basic research on both the sides was a little different. Somebody who tried to venture into it without knowing it had to suffer the consequences later. So see whether the material that is available on the law, is it interesting to you or not, right? This is the third thing. The fourth thing is that when you've read the material, try and see can you publish something around it. When you publish something, of course, you deep dive into a lot of topics pertaining to that area, and once you've deep dived into those topics, of course, that leads you to say know for sure that fine, I'm interested in this area, and which is why I've deep dived into the topic, taken the pains of actually writing on that topic, and then proceeding further. And of course, the last thing is to see that what are the safety net options for you. Like, say I knew for a fact that if my goal is to be financially independent, of course, I will have to choose an area that is not completely alien to to the market. Like, say corporate is the highest employer, of course I'm going to take it. Now if it's pandemic, and if I choose, say, arbitration my area of law, of course, or like litigation as my area of law, of course not a lot of firms would be willing to hire me. Of course that thing has subsided right now, but yes, this was the thing, that within pandemic not a lot of firms wanted to hire people for their litigation and arbitration teams, right? So this is also something that you would want to see, that according to the economy, what are the basic things that you would want to look at. So I think with that we've reached the end of this video, and if you have any other corresponding doubts, and if you feel that you would want to book a mentorship session to gain more clarity around it, please feel free to DM me on Instagram. My Instagram ID is Career Solutions by Aashna Jain. And please, once again, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Please share this channel with your friends, with your peers, with your juniors, with your seniors, etc. Anybody who might need this channel. And of course, please let me know in the comments if there's any other video requests that you have, or anything that you would want me to do, if you have any other feedback as well. With that, we've come to the end. I hope I see you next week. With that, goodbye and good luck.